on. Angie's doing her magic.
Yeah, welcome everyone to the 13th annual Homeownership Day. The co-hosts today will be Desiree and Ange. I'm just here to MC the space for them and help out keep things organized.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. We're just getting some people logged on here, and we will start in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining us for Homeownership Day. Please take a minute to retweet out our space and tell your friends to join in.
Yeah, and just a couple quick notes for anyone new to Twitter. Um, how you become a speaker is you hit the little heart symbol down there, and then you'll see a raised hand. Just click that. Um, Once you're up here, you hit the microphone on the left to become a speaker. And if you'd like to pin tweets, you do that by going to the share button. Once you are a speaker, it'll show the option to add it to Homeownership Day 2024 at the top, and you just click that and it'll share it to the Jumbotron at the top. If you'd like to share something in the comments, just copy and paste the link into the comments. And for anyone who's not on a cell phone, if you're on a desktop or a laptop, you won't be able to raise your hand. So just put in comments that you'd like to speak, and we'll put you in the queue where it fits. I believe you can use all the other emojis, even if you're not on a cell phone user at the moment. The space will be recorded, so keep that in mind in your comments and so on. And please try not to mic up over each other. It causes some weird things to happen in Twitter. So if someone's speaking, let them finish before you start speaking, just so it doesn't cause feedback and weird noises.
I want to take a minute to thank Alan for helping me with all of the technology behind this Twitter space. As you know, last year we had a little bit of a debacle and it was tough to do, but so far it's going smooth, and I really appreciate you joining us so that I can stay focused on the real estate conversation and everyone else can have a better event here. Thanks again, you guys, for joining us. I know that it is your Saturday morning and there's a million other things you could be doing right now. You could be watching Netflix, you could be champagne brunching, you could be off doing a hike, but you have chose to come here to Homeownership Day, and I'm grateful for that, and your future self is grateful for that, because we've got some amazing information for you today. Uh, I just can't thank you enough for joining in. And oh, I see Angela popped in. Hi, Angela. Good to see you. Desiree, I want to thank you for being a longtime supporter. We've got Flower Den in the house. Thanks, Dan. Good to see you. Ives, a great inspector, one of my favorites. Thank you for joining. I'm sure people will have some questions for you later. Joseph, thank you for being here. That's awesome. I also want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor, Vow to Save, for helping with all the marketing and to put on this event. I don't know if you guys know or not, but this is the 13th annual Homeownership Day, and we have been at this for quite a few years. And the goal behind Homeownership Day is to help you guys make better, more educated decisions in real estate so that you feel comfortable. Real estate's a long-term journey, and as you go down that road, we want to be here to support you. We started out at Chapman University with the Orange County Register back when the newspaper was popular and the Board of Realtors. And we have grown since then into an online platform so that more people can share and attend. And it's been really great. I love to hear your stories of just how you guys have evolved in home ownership. It's been fun to watch clients get their first home and then move up, get a second home, sometimes moving to multi-units. And it amazes me what small intentional things can do over time. And If you're here in the space today, whether you are a renter or you own one home or you own 40 doors, there should be something for you today. So I just want to invite you to listen in on some of our sessions. The way that we're doing the platform now is we've got this live chat happening, and we'll be talking about a lot of the different things that are going on with homeownership. And I can't always get all the speakers to log on at the same time. So we've got pre-recorded sessions on our sessions page. You guys will see that. I pinned the tweet up at the top there. So if you want to listen to any of the pre-recorded sessions, I highly encourage you to. They are excellent information, and all you have to do is just put in like your email to sign in. But don't worry, you guys, you're not going to get any spam. Ain't nobody got time for that. Oh, I see Eric just popped in. Elizabeth just popped in. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Basically, this is a casual coffee conversation, and we'll be talking about all types of things real estate. If you have questions, don't be afraid to raise your hand, speak up, and we'll get through and talk with some of the speakers here soon. I'm getting a couple of text messages, so I was going to throw it over to Desiree and see if you want to kind of talk for a moment about what you're seeing right now in the market does, and I can reply to a couple of these texts.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for doing this for 13 years. It's been an incredible honor to be part of the sponsorship and you being part of NRB for the last decade at least. And Chapman University obviously has a great play to me because I had multiple children graduate from Chapman and being part of their Leatherby program. So those who don't know, homeownership is really about, the shelter and what we're looking at. So the idea is that when Angie was talking about 40 doors, that could be in so many different capacities. A door could be actually just a plot of land if you think about it, because you can actually rent that space or own that space and what you're doing with it. So homeownership has really evolved into what you can utilize the space for and how it's changed. And then also acquiring it has changed, and the openness of the laws have changed through it. So NRB is really focused about, the entrepreneur, the women owned, and what we could do is the full ecosystem of real estate. So homeownership is a component of it. And so I think it's absolutely fantastic to have the group come together every year and put this on, and all the work that you've done into it, Angie. So as the logistics of doing this, you work for, various different companies and the program, and and Angie, for those who don't know, she tours the United States. And I mean, when I say tours the United States, I mean in her truck, and goes around and builds homes and builds ADUs and builds things, and then goes and gives us beautiful scenery pictures as she's moving through it. So if you have not followed her on her different media platforms to see the beautiful scenery, where she's going, what she's doing, you need to do that. So just want to put that out there.
Thank you, Desiree. You know I am a sucker for scenery.
And photography, that's
And
gorgeous.
rocks.
Oh. Yes, that's true. I like to pick up rocks. I'm like, I'm that weird girl. I'm my favorite YouTube channel. Usually, what I'm doing on Saturday mornings is watching the crystal collector on YouTube dig in the dirt. So I can't help myself. But I digress. Derek, thank you for logging in. Do you or Eric want to talk a little bit about what either of you are seeing in the market right now with buyers? I know we've got a couple lenders in the room right now. Oh, and I see Nikki with Signees, mobile notary just popped in, and so did a Colo. What we're talking about right now is the real estate market and what you're seeing in the market. So, does anybody have anything to say there?
I didn't even answer that question. I'm sorry. When they're done, I'll jump in.
You can jump in now if you want. Maybe all you guys have to do, there's a little mic button in the corner. And Alan, if you could make Eric Wu a speaker and Derek Beisner a speaker. And if you've already sent them the message, Eric and Derek, you probably have a like a little pop-up on your screen that says accept speaker. So look for that, and then that way you'll be able to talk. Same for you, Akolo. You can go ahead and press speaker if you want to join in about the market. But really quick, what I'm seeing in the market right now is a lot of discouragement from buyers. They do not like the rates right now. They don't like the prices right now, and they are just tired of it. So I want to encourage all of you guys to listen to Stephen Thomas's pre-recorded session about the market report. He's got some excellent information, some charts, some graphs, and I will say that we're projecting that rates are going to dip a little bit this year. So those of you that have been frustrated, hang in there, keep looking, stay on your online searches. What I'm seeing with sellers right now is people don't want to move when they're in that great interest rate. So I'm dealing with a lot of death and divorce, the double D's. People will always still need to sell when somebody passes away or when a divorce happens, but that is a good portion of our inventory right now are the forced sales, or I mean, not necessarily forced, but lifestyle forces sale. Uh, Anybody else have any insights on the market?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick, Angie, is that it's the market now is definitely very niche, meaning that it used to talk about the entire nation. You used to be able to talk about the whole city of or county of something that's going on. And so the idea is that what I'm seeing is that this what you're looking for as a homeowner can be very different, and also that market in that area. So like let's say, something's closing in a particular city or something's being built, then all of a sudden gravitate people are trying to go buy the asset. And the thing that's changing is the usage of the property. So I have some clients that are actually going buying land, instead of using a reverse mortgage, they're going in to be able to take out a loan and stay. They're selling part of their land and then selling that part of that land so then they can get that money to then stay in the building that they're in, the home that they're in. So the creativity is at an all-time high. So when you're looking at, yeah, the frustration of buying a normal home, or a way to get in there because of frustration of interest rates, always remember, is that piece of property you're buying a multi-purpose use to where it might have an extra large yard or it might be behind a gated community? Because remember, if you're wanting to live in a specific area and there's only limited properties that are there, interest rates will always fluctuate. It's a matter of what you can do to subsidize by having additional tenants in the property or something like that, or ways of making additional income to offset it until you can right size and stabilize your market. Because that's why when you buy big properties, how long does it take to stabilize it? So think of that when you're going out there looking at the interest rate. How can you offset it for a period of time to, like Angie said, the market can, the interest rates, they're looking at maybe a 3 to 6 tick down, but there's no guarantee on that.
Right. I agree, Desiree. People are getting creative. And as Farrah Wilder said in one of our car sessions, people are getting scrappy. So it's a it's a good thing. If you have to get scrappy with your real estate, I still recommend to go for it because it really is a good long-term investment. I see Eric Wu and Joseph have their hands up. Joseph, I think yours was up first. So you want to talk about what you're seeing in the market, and then we'll cue Eric in next.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I do real estate photos. I drone. I fly drones and regular photographs as well. Um, my sister is a realtor. So what I've noticed is as the interest rates are going higher, it's easier to negotiate the actual price of the home with the seller if you're looking to buy. So you can get a reduction in price. People want to move their properties, but they know that there's a high interest rate. It's hard to sell. So that's something to look into and be aware of.
Thank you for that. And it's true when we are seeing sellers help to buy down rates and things like that for the buyers to help them get in. So don't be afraid to ask, you guys, especially before our hot market time, which usually starts in Orange County after Super Bowl. Eric, what do you've got for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, Angie. And then, first of all, before I answer the question, I just want to give you kudos for organizing the homeownership day. Like I think more than 10 years now. I think when I first attended back in 2014, just as a new loan officer, as attendee, I was just kind of wow and amazed about the this program that you put up at Chapman University. And 10 years later, it's still up and running, albeit on social media now. It's really kudos to you and your dedication of keeping this event going. But to answer your question, what do I see? The biggest thing I see right now is the change of perspective and expectation in terms of rates from home buyers. From the 2021 to 2022, that was a drastic rate adjustment shock for most home buyers. We're talking about from 3% interest rate or lower to all of a sudden nearly double to 6%. I don't think in the history of US there hasn't been that quick of an interest rate hike in that quick short amount of time. So it was really difficult for homeowners to accept and adjust. But when I talk about changing perspective, I'm talking about from last year until like early last year until now, when the rates went up as high as 8%, and now we're finally tapering down to a lower 6%. Now, overall, I think most of the home buyers that I work with, that I've talked to, they have the expectation now this 6% or a give and take is the new norm. There's less people talking about or asking whether or not we can go back to the 4 or 3%. They're just dealing with the reality that the 6% range, give and take, is the new norm. And how do we proceed with being a home buyer in this current environment? That's the biggest adjustment that I see in this current market with home buyers.
I agree. Back to getting scrappy and figuring out creative ways, right?
Yep. Speaking of creative ways, be sure to tune into my class. I talked about like several different ways how you can offset some of your housing expense given this high interest rate environment. So.
You sure did, and I appreciate your session. Also, Desiree touched upon some of that, and my multi-unit mindset touches on it a little bit. So if you guys are looking for some creative ways to purchase real estate, definitely go to our homeownershipday.com/sessions page and start to listen in on some of those sessions. I see we've got some new people in the room. Zane, thanks for joining us. Rob, it's nice to see you in here. JJ, thank you for coming in. I wanted to quickly mention, oh, and Amanda. Hi, Amanda. I love you. HD 5000, thanks for joining us. Let's see here. Okay, for anybody that wants to talk, I just want to remind you guys that you can raise your hand if you're on your phone. So definitely feel free to do that. Do we have anybody else that has some insights or updates on their current market that they're seeing right now?
I'll take a moment in this pause just to remind everyone to please retweet out the space. And also, Chivalrous has been kind enough to put some directions for new speakers in the comments. So if you're not sure how to do it, the instructions are there.
Thank you, Alan. That was the other thing I was going to say. If any of you guys, speaker-wise, are struggling to get something handled, DM Homeownership Day, and Alan and Chivalrous will help you guys with the technicalities on things. And that way we can kind of just get everything going along. One thing that I wanted to bring up, I am on reports on housing charts right now, and we have got low listing inventory, lower demand than a lot of years, which isn't terrible because our demand before was insatiable. And I know some of you guys were dealing with that market of paying like 20, 30, 50, 80, $250,000 over asking price here in Southern California. That's not happening so much right now, so that is wonderful. If any of you guys are curious about the average days on the market in your particular city, you can tweet that to us and I can get you out that data from reports on housing. Let's see here. Okay. I wanted to see if we could bring up Ayib to talk about inspections, but I see Ayib's a listener right now. So I'm not sure if you're having trouble with connecting your mic, Ayib, but I'd like to bring you in to talk a little bit about what's happening in home inspections. And then I also see, let's see, Derek's got his speaker up. Derek, did you want to take a couple minutes to talk about your class, which is the knock bridge loans class?
Had a question from comments too from Elizabeth asking how long the recorded sessions would be available.
Good question, Elizabeth. The recorded sessions will be on our website 365 days a year. I'm just going to let them stay up there and live because I know not everybody can get here at the same time. And then my other challenge with running this event for 13 years is I would give the speakers a time slot because we were doing things IRL. And some of them were like, I only have 5 minutes worth of stuff to say. And others of them are like, I have an hour's worth of stuff to say. So now you have the speaker just staying their session, not trying to fill extra time or not trying to like wrap it up extra quick. So you guys can really like dig into those sessions. We've also went to an online e-learning format. So if any of you guys in this room are real estate professionals or have anything to share about real estate, there is a speakers page on Homeownership Day where you can go ahead and submit for your session and I'll review it. And if we like the way that things look, then we'll get you as a speaker with a pre-recorded session next year. All right, sorry that was long, but Derek, did you want to talk about bridge loans?
Sure. You got me now?
We got you.
Cool. Yeah. So what I love about this product is it's turning sellers that are contingent into non-contingent. Okay. The bridge loan basically, in a nutshell, you move in your first you move in your home first, list the old home, prep your old home, and then sell the old home. And it's a lot of information, but my video on the class will explain a little bit more of it. I think it's for a lot of people who are not wanting that or need to sell, but don't have a home up front. This allows you 6 months to find that home. And you'll love this one, Angie. The best part about it is you'll get a list side and a buy side out of it and double your income. Yeah.
Can't complain about that. For
Nope.
those of you that are in the room that don't understand what contingent buyer is, basically when you purchase a home, there are already pre-written contingencies into our contracts to protect you. One of those contingencies is your loan, one of them is your inspection, one of them is your appraisal. So every buyer, unless you're a cash buyer, you've got those three contingencies already basically coming with you. And when we're talking contingent buyer, when you're doing a sell your home and buy another one, you're adding a fourth contingency and you're basically asking that seller to accept your offer, but your home hasn't been sold yet and you need the money from your home sale in order to buy that next home. So that can make things super stressful and complicated for you because in most cases, if you're not doing a bridge loan, what you have to do is get the seller, first of all, to accept your contingent offer, which usually means offering over their asking price to the tune of $20,000 to $30,000 over the asking price for them to be willing to absorb that risk. And then on top of it, as soon as they accept your offer, you got to rush, 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 put your home on the market and put that into escrow within 14 days in order to be able to still move forward with your purchase on the next home that you've now fallen in love with. And if something happens with your buyer on your home that you're moving out of and they cancel on you, then the seller of the house you're about to buy can cancel on you. So people do this all the time, and I definitely can help with non-bridge loan transactions. But I will say, when it comes to stress and doing that, call it move up, step up process, it can, a bridge loan can really save you guys a lot of stress. Because the other thing is like, yeah, it's just you don't always know. You can't predict what other people are going to do. You can only predict what you're going to do yourself. So I just wanted to go in a little bit more about what a contingent buyer looks like and kind of why you don't necessarily want to be one. Does anybody have thoughts or stories? Has anybody been a contingent buyer before?
I've decked 4 of them. I mean, if you can think of stacking 4 in a row, that was insane, and I did that probably 20 some years ago. It came through, but I shaved a few years off my life. Um, and it is something that you've got to make sure to plan for the worst, in case something does fall out and you have to carry that bridge loan, you have to carry the, excuse me, the original mortgage you have on your home, and going through it and what's that going to look like. And that's where the alternative income coming in to, can you do that? You know, what does that impact, and why is that property so important that you have to have it versus is there going to be something else that's going to come around? So I just want to put that in perspective.
Really good point. And only you, Desiree, with 4. My gosh. Yeah, I would have had a heart attack.
And the sad thing is one was, my husband's really close friend, and when you do that with friends, it even makes it even that much more like, you know, "Why aren't you Superwoman? Why aren't you this? Why aren't you that?" kind of scenario, so yeah.
Right. Why aren't you a miracle worker? Oh my goodness. Alrighty. Let's see here. What else do we have today? I'm glad that, yeah, thank you, Derek, for kind of explaining the bridge loans because they are super confusing. So if you guys are thinking about, you know, doing that move up by, be sure to listen to his session. A bridge loan isn't for everybody, but it's definitely an option that you'll want to consider if you're doing that. Okay, here. Let's see. I'm not seeing any hands right now. Are you guys able to raise your hands if you have something or question or anything like that? I just want to make sure you're totally welcome to engage, you guys. This is like, you know, chat space, not necessarily all that good stuff.
I tried to ping Teresa Grobeck, up. She's up in San Francisco.
Oh,
She's
cool.
not in the room, but I tried it on the back channel because she has a story that, you know, I could go into my story about my 4 decks, but I think that her story is more prevalent to what's going on right now, because if you talk about, you know, old versus what's new, current, and she ended up buying a piece of property above a Starbucks in a strip mall. If you can think about that in Marin
Oh,
County.
cool. That's so neat.
And but okay, so she bought a property to live in a strip mall. So it's a hybrid of an office in addition to being her home. And so when you think about how close can I get to the best downtown marketplace in what your clientele is, at the same time have an office. How many of you have ever slept in your office? Or had, you know, stayed late at the office because of running so many clients, but then also had the premium location of overlooking a bay or overlooking the ocean or having a view for your part, Angie, in your, you know, Airstream, whatever, that you want to have this incredible opportunity. And so to be able to make that work at the right price, at the right terms, now she literally owns her office and a home in the same place. So no one can get in trouble. She can't get in trouble for living in her office if she so chooses. So I thought it was, and then she got creative financing. And then, hey, you want to have all the other shops that are in there, you want to have all the different things. And she can walk to downtown Rodeo Drive in Marin County. She can walk to all the different places that she wants to go and not have to even worry about parking because it's part of the parking thing. So I just thought it was very creative and very incredible and is a sign of the times because we're talking about office space. But this is a new way of thinking of home ownership, versus then buying a condo or buying a townhome or a house or whatever else. So I just thought it was very interesting.
I love that live work concept. Like you know me, I've been a workaholic since the day I was born. And so why not combine the expenses of your business with the expenses of owning a home and then still being able to have that separated workspace, but being able to get there in a moment, anytime. I know that I see a few people in this room. I won't call you out, but I know you're looking for live work properties and we will find you a great one. I see you figured out the speaker thing here. Do you want to talk with us about what you've seen on some recent home inspections and maybe just highlight like things that are normal or things that could be red flags when you're out and about touring through these homes and going through attics and crawling in crawl spaces? You just have to click in the lower
Okay, okay.
left-hand
Do you hear
corner.
me?
There you go. You found
Okay.
it. Yeah, we got you. Good
Yeah.
job, Ayab.
Yeah.
Ayab is a first-time tweeter for us today, you guys. So give him a big
Yeah.
hand.
Hi. Good morning, guys. Just let you know about the what's going on with the inspection. What the buyer worry about? Most likely, when you find the first time buyer, they are very worried. They are like they don't like to get the home if you find small cosmetics and stuff like that. They don't like, okay, no, that's a big problem, whatever. So we're starting to like explain to them what's going on with the home inspection, with what is major, what is minor, what is cosmetics, what is we have to worry about it, what is not. So we're starting to tell them everything about the electrical, plumbing issue, foundation, stuff like that. The big flag we find it like in the home inspection, like we talking about the roof, foundation, and plumbing. That's the three things, and the electrical. The first thing we mentioned about it because this one is taking like too much money to fix it. Like, but at the end, when you're buying like a home built in 1960 or whatever, that's regular. If you find the stuff like that, you need to maintain it. You need to do some repair, some stuff like that. So we trying to explain to the buyer what is important, what is you have. It's okay if you do it. If you spend like $1,000 or $10,000 to fix it, that's not a big deal when you buy a house, especially when you get like a good deal or whatever. And we trying to explain them everything like that, like the electrical, like stuff like that. uh, that's it. And we're trying to tell them like, uh, don't worry about the house. If you get this house, you're gonna fix this issue or this cosmetics or this. Even if it's a big problem, I got a house with a problem with the foundation. I told the guys we can get it. We can get like some credit from the buyer and we can fix it with like 10 grand or whatever. So I convinced him and he got it and we fixed the problem. So that's when you asking for the home inspection, some of the people also they like they worry about we're gonna get it as is, we're not gonna get a credit, whatever. Okay, that's fine. Even if you don't get a credit, at least you know what is the future expectation in the repair, like a water heater. Water heater, if it's age of like 2017 or 15, so the water heater age is between 6 to 10 years. So you know like what's expected for the like a future repair and stuff like that. That's it.
Thank you. Absolutely. So you said roofs and foundations and plumbing are the main deal breaker things, and I see that as well. One thing that I just want to tell the buyers in the room or remind the buyers in the room, if you haven't purchased a property lately, the inspector's job is to call your baby ugly. Every inspection is going to find 30 to 300 things wrong with that property. But
Yeah.
if you pull out of that one and you go inspect another one after that, then you're still going to have another 30 to 300 things wrong with the
Hmm.
property. So, in essence, what you want to think about is it's more like marriage. Nothing's perfect,
Yep.
but what can you deal with? What will you deal with? I see Eric's hands up, and then Ayub, I know you're new. If you press the bottom left-hand corner, mic is on right now. If you turn that off, there you go. Thank you. All right, let's see what Eric has to say.
Oh, thanks, Angie. I just want to quickly touch up on the conversation regarding uh, work living space. Just a little bit tidbit for the would-be home buyers. At the FHA loan program, you can actually use that loan to purchase a mixed-use property that you can use for living and work. The biggest, again, those type of opportunity, available property may or may not be readily available in your area, but if there is, if you're interested in it, you can utilize the FHA loan, which you can put down as low as 3.5% for those specific type of property. Now, the biggest caveat for the property to be eligible is that 51% of the property space has to be used for residential living purposes, basically more than half. So if you find a property, a mixed-use property that fits that criteria, know that you can utilize FHA loan to purchase that home.
Thank you for bringing that up. FHA loans are a great way for first time buyers to get into properties. My first loan was an FHA loan, and I've done other FHA loans after that because I really like the 3.5% down option. So, if you guys in this room were thinking that you need to put down 20% to buy a property, I don't know where that came from and why that's in so many people's heads, but it's like almost ingrained from the previous generation or something like that, but that is not the truth. You can purchase property, if you're a veteran, you can purchase property with zero down. You can purchase FHA property with 3.5% down, and there's 5% down programs. So, what I would encourage you to do is if you're curious about buying property at all, reach out to one of the lenders that are on our call today that have recorded sessions. Ask them to help you get a pre-approval. It's okay if the amount that you're pre-approved for isn't the amount of the area that you want to buy yet. It just helps you know where you need to go and what you need to do. And I know both Derek and Eric are always happy to help you create a plan of action to get to homeownership because it doesn't always just happen immediately, and that's okay. All right. I see Teresa came into the room. Thank you for joining us. And Kellen, thank you for coming in too. Would love if you guys tweeted where you're listening from. I always love to see that and get some stats there. And if you retweeted the space out for us. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts on home inspections or the condition of property?
Can I jump in real quick before that, Angie? Teresa, I invited you up. Please come up. I explained a little bit about the property you bought up in where you're at now. And then also, Eric, I'd love you to explain if someone were to try to get financing for ADUs, can you buy a property and what kind of loan can you use if you were planning on putting an accessory dwelling unit on it? Because here in the state of California, it's so prevalent. And now you can actually subdivide land without subdividing it and sell a piece of land that you put an ADU on it without going through the subdivision and permitting of it, which is crazy. That's a whole nother story. But how do you get financing for those ADUs, if you don't mind, real quick?
Good question. There's multiple sources. One, you could get a renovation or construction loan that that lender offers on that you can borrow an additional amount to build the ADU for. Now, those type of loan are typically much more, how do I say this? They're more restrictive in terms of you need to submit a plan. You can't just blindly ask for the funds like a cash out refinance per se. You need to have a specific plan in mind, drafted out, and they need the lender need to approve the build out of the ADU as well as the contractors. They will be vetting and interviewing the contractor heavily, make sure that everything is lined up properly before, along with the individual's finances. So that is one way to get financing for ADU. Now, here in specifically in California, you have another resource that you can get funding for ADU. The California Housing Finance Agency, CalHFA, recently, they are starting to giving out grants to California homeowners for them to build ADU. As many of California homeowners know, or residents know, we have a severe shortages in homes, and the state of California this is their way to encourage more, finding way to have more housing, is to encourage existing homeowners to build ADUs. And through this program, the ADU grant that they offer, each would-be homeowners or current homeowners can apply up to $40,000 in grants to build their ADUs. Now, the funds are limited. Typically, it exhausted rather quickly. And the latest I checked on the website is that, unfortunately, their latest batch of funds has been all exhausted and been reserved. But if you're interested in building ADU, definitely, be on the lookout from the CalHFA website as to when they'll be releasing their next batch of funds that you can reserve to build your own ADU.
I love the ADUs. Thank you for clarifying about that, Eric. It's we do have previous homeownership day sessions about ADUs on our sessions page, and then I think also on the rewatch page, because we started talking about ADUs at homeownership day, I want to say in like 2018. And I mention it in my session as well. Having an ADU is a great way to add additional income to your property. And it's definitely something that if you live in the state of California, you should consider. Oh, I see Alan's got the hand up. What do you got, Alan?
Yeah, from a non real estate professional, what exactly is an ADU? Because I'm sure some people new to the space may have that question. And any acronyms like that you guys use, it'd be great if you could just give us a quick definition of it.
Thank you for that. Sorry, guys. An ADU stands for accessory dwelling unit. And in the state of California, they have passed a law where any property that's zoned a single family residence, also known SFR, can be allowed to have an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU. So in essence, any property in the state of California that is a single family can be turned into a duplex. And a lot of times you can add a junior ADU, AKA a triplex, on your previous single family property lot. And I know that we've got people, I've got clients and people in this room that have definitely taken advantage of ADUs. So if you haven't thought about it yet, there's lots of different ways to do it. So check it out. My favorite that I've been watching, I forget the name of the company. I'm connected with the owner on LinkedIn, but they're doing 3D printings of the ADUs and they're like literally printing out properties, you guys. It's so neat. All right. Does anybody in the room have any questions about ADUs, or has anybody thought about putting one on their property? And if so, what questions or challenges have you ran into?
I don't believe Teresa realized her mic was hot. I could hear her typing.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Hi, it's my first time doing this. Thanks, Desiree, for inviting me up.
Welcome.
Hi, I wanted to just quickly answer Desiree's question if no one else at the moment had a comment about ADUs, if that's okay.
Go for it, Teresa.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Angie. So I spent about 6 months in 2023 negotiating the purchase of an office to residential condo. So in the business, that's called an OTR. and it has permits for being a live workspace. They started the process in about 2019, 2020. And the way they were marketing this space is live work. And I politely said to the listing agent, hey, have you heard of Zoom? Everything is work live now. So that plus the fact that office space, you've got about $2 trillion of commercial paper that's hitting the fan right now. The listing agent had no idea. There was a resi listing agent from Coldwell Banker and then a commercial broker from a local commercial shop. And they just tried to pretend like there was no issue in the space. So the original listing price was 560. They dropped it to 520. I offered 500. They rejected that offer. It got picked up on, I think it was Instagram or TikTok by a major influencer for being like one of the world's worst office to residential conversions ever done. I laughed. I then offered 392. I spent 48 hours pulling straight comps of and doing just math on the place. The agent then hated me more than before. And then I waited for the knife to fall. My best friend said to me, this deal isn't done. And I said to him, are you sure? And he's like, I know you. This deal is not done. So then I came back a few months later after I realized how much foot traffic and car traffic this place has. And then I came back and offered 440 because the next price drop after 480 would have, of course, been 440. And they were due for another price drop. So that's where we purchased it. I actually have two teenage sons and we live in a converted office and it's the happiest I've ever been. My neighbors are Starbucks and FedEx. We have great anchor tenants all over the neighborhood of publicly traded companies. And as far as asset classes go, I would say that because of those pubco companies that are all over our neighborhood, I have the most confidence in the value of this property appreciating, especially since this asset class has been so severely beat up. So that's my TED Talk. Thanks for listening.
That's so awesome, Teresa. Thank you for sharing that journey. And what a journey it was. Oh my goodness. Like, wow. But how cool to live in a downtown area, you guys. And she just took a really creative kind of mindset and ran with it. And I love it that you were so diligent about pulling comps and following it and not giving up and holding out for your price and crunching those numbers to find out what price worked for you. You know, it's funny. I see, like, have you guys seen those converted churches lately too? How people are converting those and living in those? Like, I obsess over those on Instagram too. It's just like, wow, that's a really neat space. It's got such good light.
Yeah,
But
converted churches and schoolhouses are a real commonplace in the Midwest. That's something that's been going on for a while. And oddly enough, I don't have much to contribute to this conversation aside from this. Probably 22 years ago, I did a live-in workspace. Had my tattoo shop downstairs, and I lived in a small apartment above it for the economics of it and everything. So glad to know that I was thinking ahead or maybe even a bit ahead of the times, because I think that's a really good way to go. The world's kind of becoming this 15-minute environment or ecosystem around us. Everything's like 15 minutes from where you live, or I think that's kind of where the designs of things are going. So a live-in workspace, it seems like it just contributes to that in a really unique way.
So Teresa forgot to add that there's this beautiful patio that's out the back of her property that overlooks the marina. So, I mean, hello. And then to her point, walking down the street is where, Teresa?
Um, where are you going with that one? There's a lot down the street.
That was the joke. Prime real estate, prime shopping, prime eating, prime,
Oh,
being in the city.
yeah. I mean, I walk my younger son across the street and he gets fresh sourdough bread that's still warm. I can go walk after my run. It's very tempting. Trader Joe's is right there. I can go buy whatever junk food after my runs. And bringing up my son, my younger son was the one who saw the vision of this. My kids, ever since they were babies, like there was one on each hip, and I was doing fix and flip in the recession, and they've been to home inspections and just sitting there while home, like as babies. So the younger one begged me to buy this property. And when I didn't get it the first two times, like he didn't talk to me all summer. He was so upset because he knows his mom is a is a mother trucking pit bull. And he's like, why didn't you get this? If you really wanted this, you would have gotten this for me. Like, you promised you would. And then when we finally closed, I looked at him in the car and he said, do you understand the virtue of patience and negotiating? And he begrudgingly rolled his eyes at me and said, yeah, Mom, I got it.
Teaching that next generation, Teresa, and they teach us too. It's funny, sometimes I'll walk into properties with clients and their kids will be there, and the kids will have some really interesting insight about the property. So we can all learn from each other. And one of the things that I love about kids is that they just like they they have no fear, and they see potential and possibility. They're not jaded like us 40 somethings, right? So, yeah, listen to your kids, but teach them at the same time, you guys. And while you're doing that, build a legacy for them. Buy property and hold it. Don't just keep moving up the ladder and buying all the way up to the McMansion. Like, keep a condo or two along the way, townhome as you move up the ladder. I want to thank Starcada and Happy for joining in. Kusha, PV Prasad. Thank you guys all for joining us for Home Ownership Day today. We're having a casual coffee conversation and talking about all things real estate. I wanted to kind of move over to talk about solar for a minute. One of the things that I am passionate about is being green with your real estate. I like to be friends with the earth, not be the enemy of the earth. And when you are using, you know, basically like wind and geothermal and solar, things like that, you're helping the environment better than like the big gas companies and stuff like that. So I wanted to highlight a session that we've got today with Brad Coleman. Once again, you guys can listen to all the sessions if you go to homeownershipday.com/sessions. They're all pre-recorded on the site there. You just have to click to register. And Brad talks about different ways of adding solar to your property and what that can do for your property. An interesting thought and kind of story about Brad is he actually is a veteran. He was in recon, and he jumped out of a parachute and got injured. So he had to, become a civilian, he said, and he got his real estate license. So Brad was one of my mentors coming into the real estate industry. He taught me pretty much everything I know. And he was the broker of Berkshire Hathaway for a couple years. And then he decided that he wanted to go off and start a veteran owned business. So he is now running USA Solar Energy. And he is just like such a consummate professional. He always tell me, Angie, if you're on time, you're late. Like, like things like that. So he's a good person to reach out to if you have any questions about solar. What I like about him is he just is like an educational guy. He won't pressure you. He'll just help give you the numbers and crunch your electric bills and kind of see if solar makes sense for you. I will say I got solar on our Mission Viejo house, and I think it was 2018. And I am so happy that we did because, yes, I have a bill to pay off the solar, and I wrapped in a new roof with that, by the way. So if you need a new roof, it's a good time to consider solar. Um, but I just love having a fixed payment for my electrical, especially because we will vacation rental out the house. And when you have those vacation rental guests, they do not care about leaving the lights on or all the things on. So, has anybody in the room thought about solar, got solar, have a story about solar that they want to kind of mention really quick?
Solar is, I would love to have a solar program to where you could have someone who really was up on each of the different kind of programs, because so many people that in the solar space only know what they're selling or don't know the bigger play on solar, because the myth of installing, when we had the solar rights last year, at the end where all the programs that they're giving people were spending $80,000 to have a solar system put in, and they didn't know what they were buying, what the infrastructure they were buying, and how long it was going to be. And then on the flip of the side, they ended up, that they had to use it, and then what they could resell it back to them, and they didn't buy enough storage facility for it. So there's so many components to it, and I really would love to have a full ecosystem on solar and renewable energy in the space of, and then also with water, and not necessarily have a full smart home, but really have the program. Because when I ran my event up in Tahoe, can't believe it's about a year and a half ago, I was just back telling Teresa that we're going to start planning it for this year, is that we could not get a viable company to come in and know from A to Z and really look at for the looking out for the homeowner or the business owner and having them understand the process, because only the training vehicle is done through the state, and there's little limited programs, and even that was funded through a third party company that would help on behalf of it. So I really want to put that out there. When we get really creative ways, as you heard Teresa just talk about the niche of buying her home, is that creativity is also needs to be applied to where we're going to be moving forward with, with all the climate issues with solar, whether it's going to be feasible, not feasible, and what is the best, allocation that you can have. Spend more now, allocate, less later, and things like that. So if anyone knows of anyone or has partnerships or working in that space, please connect with me, because that is the most important thing, I think. And I do have some resources, but I think it's a space that needs to be fully developed even better, and truer than what it is right now.
I agree. It's still a confusing space. I would encourage you to link up with Brad. He's definitely somebody that likes to help systemize and organize things. That was one of the things that he helped me do from the very beginning as a real estate agent. And I still use a lot of those systems today. I want to thank Simia LLC for joining in and Rivers Lime for joining in. If you guys want to talk about real estate, just send a request to Homeownership Day to become a speaker. If you have any questions, any of you in the room, we are always an open book to give you some answers. I want to talk now about one of like my favorite sessions this year, and it's something that's unique. It's a Mark Podolsky, he wrote this book called Dirt Rich, and it's such an interesting way to consider purchasing land. And I don't want to give away all like the secrets or tips of his session, but or the book, but I will say that it was just like he started out with $1,000, you guys. So if you're in this room and you're like, I'm broke, I want to do real estate, I would highly encourage you to listen to Mark's session or download his Dirt Rich book. He kind of goes into this unique way, because before I used to always tell people, like, you know, don't buy land. Just even if you buy the crappiest property on land, then at least you can put a tenant in that in most cases. And land, you just have a monthly payment for, right? You don't have a residual income. But Mark has basically kind of created this process of being able to purchase land under market value and then turning around and reselling it as an owner financing where you're your own bank. And he's now got thousands of plots of land and these little checks coming in every month from all of these different sources that are he has owner financed the land for. And it's a really neat kind of way to think about it. Like if you guys don't want to be a landlord, but you like dirt, you like to dig in the dirt for rocks or something, maybe. But it's a really neat session to listen to. So it's not for everybody, but it's, again, the reason why we do Home Ownership Day is for you guys. We want to help give you ideas and spur you on to do something great with your real estate. And that looks different for everybody. And why I do this for 13 years in a row is because we never run out of different aspects to talk about when it comes to ways that you can make your real estate work for you. So it's yeah, it's just fascinating. So, if you're looking to purchase land, I want to give you a few quick tips of things that I've learned because I have been obsessing about it for the last few years. Actually, one of Daniel's cousins told me about landwatch.com, and they do auctions, and there's a lot of owner financing available through that website. So something that's cool with owner financing when it comes to, real estate is you don't necessarily need qualifications for that. So if you have really crappy credit, but you know that you have good income and you can afford something, then owner financing is a way for you to possibly go so that you can get into a property. But anyway, back to Landwatch. I was obsessing on Landwatch for the last couple of years, and it's scary because in essence, the types of properties that I'm looking at aren't right around the corner. I can't always drive to go and buy them. But one of the things that you want to think about is your access to that property. Like, is it on a hill? Is it something where it's full of trees? Like, is there a road to get there? Do you need an easement? Do you need to walk through someone else's plot of land to access your plot of land? That's known as a term called landlocked. And when you're looking at land, you'll see two plots next to each other. One of them's on the road, one of them's behind the one on the road, and the one behind the one on the road is half the price of the one that's on the road. And that's because of that road access. And if there's not what's called an easement or legal access to get to your land, then you'll be what's called landlocked. And then you have to hold that for sometimes a very long time, or work hard to find out who the neighbors are and work with them to get what's called that easement recorded with the county or the city so that you have legal access to your property and you could take your car back there. But definitely check out Landwatch, but carefully. Like, I just want to say, you guys, like, it can be interesting and fun to get caught up in the auction, but I encourage you to just watch what happens for a little bit before you jump into anything. Make sure that you're doing your proper research, all of that kind of stuff. Before you go into any kind of real estate purchase, whether it's $1,000 or $10 million. Does anybody in the room here have land or have their eye on some land? What areas, states do you guys think are good to consider right now?
I'll jump in real quick, Angie. Arizona, I'm sorry, Nevada, in Elko County, you don't need, you can have landlocked property, but you can build an entire house and not be able to get to the land, but you just go over other people's property. And I'm just like, 40-acre piece of property my aunt owns. And I'm like, okay, this is completely landlocked all the way around. You're, a good solid, half a mile to the closest road, and we'd have to do this, this, and this. And so I started thinking about, okay, what does it take to build a property that is right next to the salt mines and everything else? And I just love because the beauty of it and how it's up in the very picturesque mountains. And they were just like going, yeah, I can build an entire home here as long as it's permitted and have no access to the road. Yeah, it's not a problem. So it's to your point, it's so interesting. And when you're buying properties at trust deed sales, which is your auctions, here in California, they keep evolving like they do in every other state. But the idea is understanding, what can you do or not do, and not assume that everything is one way in every locale that you're at. So because of multiplicity of layers that you can put on the different building requirements or accessibility requirements. So I just thought it was a very interesting story to share.
Thank you. It's true. Every state, every city and county is different. And that's why I think sometimes people get afraid of dealing with real estate because they're nervous that they're going to make a mistake. And so it's just back to doing your proper research before you make any purchase. I see we've got Eric's hand up, and I wanted to, if somebody else just came, oh, Marty Trader, thank you for joining in on Homeownership Day today. Go ahead, Eric.
Thanks, Angie. Okay, in terms of potential spot to invest in land, Now, what I'm about to say is highly speculative, but there could be potential out there. So what I'm talking about is the high desert area in the Victor Valley, Hesperia. And why is that the case? As some of you may or may not heard, this high-speed rail system bridging Las Vegas to California has finally officially in the work. And what's happening is they're building this high-speed rail. One of the stations starts in Vegas, and then the California station will be in the high desert area, Hesperia, Victorville Valley. And then separately, they're going to build another train line from Hesperia or Victor Valley to Rancho Cucamonga. So with that said, that area, once the train station, the system is set up, I would imagine it could be a very attractive area for people to start to invest in living there. It makes it much easier to commute from that area into Southern California or to Vegas, and there is quite a few land availability out there to buy. So I would think, again, definitely do your own research before you kind of dove in and make the investment. But I would say that would be an area to kind of look into in Southern California.
You bring up a really good point, Eric, and that is, anything that's happening in the future, that's a great area to look at land. If the train system, if there's a new airport going in, if there is a new Walmart going in, they're building a Target, a Starbucks. If you know that something's slated in a particular area, then usually land is excellent to purchase. We got Flower Don's hand up. What do you have for us today, Daniel?
Gosh, I'm new. I just realized my mic was off. I just wanted to say to Eric, I think that's some great insight. We do that drive up to 15 every month or so, and doing it so frequently, we've seen how much just in the last year that whole area has developed through like Baker and Barstow and Victorville. You see massive fields of like Tesla chargers going in, and yeah, just like lots of new development coming in, and you definitely expect the housing to come in right behind it. And I also wanted to speak to the vacant land in general. I have a couple experiences to share. I think it was 2012. I bought some dirt through an owner finance deal in Sedona, Arizona, and it hadn't recovered yet from the dip in the market. I think we got into it for $27,000. And right now we're looking at either developing or selling it, and its comps right now are 150. So that's pretty good return in, I'd say, a 10, 12-year period of time. And yeah, there was the burden of carrying the note, just making payments on it, and like Angie said, not being able to put a tenant in it and turn it into a revenue stream. But when it's just a couple $100 a month, that's an easy thing to carry, and I think of it as a bookmark. And if you see things moving in a certain direction in the future, you can throw your hat in the ring there, and you never know what it's going to turn into. And I'm looking forward to digging into the module with what'd you call it? Is it Dirt Rich?
Yep, that's
Um,
it.
and yeah, just really starting to use some of those strategies. We just got some acreage in Wyoming, kind of same strategy, just to hold it and have it as a base camp for us with our travels with the trailer and everything. But you never know what you might be able to turn it into in 5, 10 years if you're patient with it.
That's really true. And I love that you were so insightful to purchase something in Sedona before it was super hot because, oh my gosh, that area has taken off like a rocket ship. So, to the point where you just have people that used to live there. When I talk to them, they're like, oh, I can't even be there anymore because it's gotten so saturated. Not that I don't love Sedona, but it's like just to see how an area can change in 10, 12 years, like from being kind of just super sleepy to being like, whoa, everybody's here now. Um, so if you guys have ideas or if there's places that you like to look at, you know, property, then if you like an area, like I know Daniel's sister did it too. You've got your hand up again. What do you got for us, Flower Done? Mike's off again.
Thanks again. You were just saying, Ange, like that you never know what it's going to be, you know, and who knew it would have blown up in that 10-year period of time. And for me, I almost talked myself out of it 10 years ago because I've been going out there for the last 30 years, and in my mind, it had already blown up and that growth had already happened. You know, so you don't realize how early you are to something sometimes. And if you're really familiar with an area, I think you should recognize, like, have that faith in yourself and trust your instincts when you feel like you see an opportunity that other people don't see.
Amen to that. Don't be afraid to go for it. Really, your true value in real estate is buying and holding long term, you guys, not necessarily like flipping stuff and, all of that. And that is what has allowed, myself and Daniel to be able to travel all summer long. Like, I make a good income selling real estate, but I'm able to travel all summer long because we're using the sharing economy and people are renting out our houses and they're paying for our mortgages so that we can go onto the road. So it's a really good deal like that. And it's something that anybody can do. Like, we got into it accidentally, right? So there's a whole story behind that. Eric, I was thinking we can bring you up soon to talk about your session and some more of those different options that you've got while people are just kind of struggling or confused about affordability with buying a home. Do you want to highlight a couple of the aspects that you talk about in your session?
Oh, sure. Um, we talked about before how the combination of rising interest rate and increasing home price just kind of makes the goal of homeownership much more daunting, more so than ever. Like right now, on average, if you take in California, again, we got folks from throughout US, but I'm here to talk about here in Southern California. On average, um, it's a broad scope, but on average, your monthly home expense, mortgages, property tax, homeowner insurance, and some mortgage insurance, all of that combined, it could be roughly anywhere between 5,000 to 5,500, give and take, right? Just on average. So in my class, some of the strategy I talked about, it could be a standalone strategy or it could be a combination. Some of the strategy could be if there's room for negotiation, you can ask seller to provide credit, and we can incorporate what is called a temporary buy down program. It's most people think of this as a rate buy down. Most people have heard of it as a rate buy down, but what I'm talking about is more like a temporary payment buy down, where for the first couple of years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you can take that credit from the seller and offset a portion of your mortgage payment. So this way, it helps clients ease in to becoming a homeowner and doesn't have to take on that big monthly payment right away. That's one of the strategies I talked about. Some of the other strategies talk about just being creative, like you mentioned, maybe being able to rent out your room, or maybe buy it with another co-bar. Maybe you're a young couple looking to buy a 2-1 home, but if you partner up and team up with another couple, maybe you guys together can buy a 4-5 bedroom home with 3 bathrooms, right? You each get the spacing that you need, but overall the cost could be less. Or you can rent out your rooms, and also here's the thing, like, about short-term rentals, renting out room, but you may or may not know this, you can also potentially rent out your garage or your driveway. There are websites that allow you to rent out, and you can generate secondary revenue to help offset your monthly expense. And also, to piggyback off of the ADU conversation that was mentioned before, we initially talked about, the conversation was about building ADU on existing properties. Well, as a first-time home buyer, another option to offset your expense is try to buy a property with existing ADUs. Because what that does is you get the kind of best of both worlds. You become a homeowner right away, and you get to become a landlord and start generating rental income to offset your housing expense. And specifically through my experience with my current home buyers clients, there's two strategies to go about that. You can buy a property with ADU and live on the main units and rent out the ADU, right? That could be one way. Or another strategy is you buy the property, you live in the ADU, because as a first-time home buyer, you may not need much of a space. You just need that space. Typically, ADU provide that's more than adequate for you, and you rent out the main unit, the main house units, which allow you to generate substantially more rental income. And I before be sure to check into my class because I break down the numbers. Because if you go that route, you live in an ADU and rent out the main unit, your actual net cost is literally substantially less than what you have paid for rent, or less than what it would cost to buy a home, back in the pandemic era. Definitely tune into my class to see the number breakdown on that. And also, same goes with multi-units. That's another way to make the home affordable. Is a multi-unit. I'm talking about a duplex, a triplex, or fourplex, where you get to live in one of the units and rent out the rest of the units to offset your costs. Sometimes you can greatly offset majority of costs, and sometimes if you find the right property, it can pretty much cover all of your costs. So those are some of just the strategy I talked about in my class in detail, and I have the number breakdown as well as to just how much you can save if you incorporate any of those strategies.
Thank you, Eric. I know that you guys definitely make sure that you go and download Eric's class. I was not aware that you can rent out your driveway. I've seen Swimply where you can rent out your pool,
Oh,
but you can rent out your driveway too. There's just all
yeah,
kinds of things, right?
driveway, garages, pools. Yeah, there's multiple revenue source that you can utilize from your home that you may not be aware of. So.
So neat. Thank you so much for bringing up those creative options. And it's funny that you mentioned roommates. That's actually my home ownership story. I don't know if you guys know how I got into property, but I was 19 years old and we got evicted from our apartment for having a pit bull dog. And then after that, I learned that California apartment policies don't cover pit bulls, Rottweilers, or Dobermans. So there was no way I was getting an apartment and keeping the dog. There was no way I was getting rid of the dog. Although you're not supposed to discriminate by age, ain't nobody renting for college students with a big dog. So I tried all those and nobody was going to rent to us. So I basically was forced to get a property. And in doing that, I was frightened. So I just figured, well, Angie, you're of college age anyway. Like, if you can get approved, just turn it into a dormitory and, it's your house and you just rent out rooms to other people. So we basically got a townhome when I was 19 years old. And at some point, like, I think we started out with 3 people in there. Our friends kept on wanting to join in on the, because by that point is like a fraternity happening. So everybody wants to join in on the club. And so we ended up having like 8 people living there. But all in all, it was a great property to hold while we were in our college years. And then I sold that one, I think 3 years later for a profit, and then turned around and bought a single family home in the neighborhood around the corner, and still had roommates in that single family home until it came to a point where my income actually matched my affordability level for the mortgage. So there's ways that you can step up if you are kind of like an organizer or a leader of your group. And I'm not saying you always have to rent to your friends or whatever, but it's just a way to get into home ownership, to team up, buddy up, and have those, multiple options out there. Let's see. Okay, does anybody have any questions for any of the speakers? And I also want to remind you guys, please do follow the speakers today and follow each other, support each other on your home ownership journeys. Make sure you keep each other in check. Elizabeth, I saw you moved up to speaker. Do you have something that you want to talk about today?
Okay, can you
And
hear me?
again, if it's, yep,
Okay,
there you go.
sorry, it took me a while to get my headphones plugged in. Um,
You did great.
thanks. Oh my gosh, this has been so good. And Eric was like touching on all the things that I'm interested in. But I wanted to bring up a different topic. What about things like sober living or midterm rentals for traveling professionals, things like that? Anyone on this call do things like that, where you get a single family home and turn it into a midterm rental for professionals or traveling nurses or sober living or pad split, that kind of thing?
Talk to us, Desiree, and then Daniel, you're up next.
Oh, I'm the one.
After that,
I'm not
Eric.
personally doing that. I'm looking at doing a CNA for having assisted living housing. I know a lady who's doing $500,000 a year in business and literally bought a home 2 years ago in Garden Grove and now has it paid off. Got her CNA license, built for $150,000, built a 2-bedroom ADU in the backyard of the property. And now she owns the property free and clear. Has a job where she was not a nurse before, and owns a house with 8 tenants in there, and you can get between $6,000 to $10,000. So to your point, for the traveling nurses and for the other one is that you have to buy in an area to where it's conducive and not in a homeowners association. I live here in Woodbridge and Irvine for the last 30 years. And the idea is that, they don't want to have people coming and going kind of scenarios. So, but the idea is that if you have the wherewithal to do that with the new ADU rule that they have out there and the lack of, oversight that they're having to say that you pretty much can do anything you want now in a lot of the different cities, that is very conducive. So when we first started this homeownership event earlier today, we talked about other ways of making money, and you have a perfect example. The traveling nurses or short-term, whether it be short-term rentals, but the other is to have a place to where you can have, like, there's a 30-day minimum, or some places have a 60-day minimum, or even a 6-month minimum, but to have a facility for corporate housing. When I first started real estate, I did corporate housing, I did the executive relocation. So if you can make the numbers work, and this is a spin-off of multifamily versus then making your house into the individuality of each of the rooms into, quote, a separate multifamily thing. So it's doable. It just has to pencil out there. But you have to make sure also on your financing you get for it. And then also you have to make sure that the city don't be an association. Associations are great, but the idea is that you have to look at what the rules and oversight, because the complexity of what they're allowed to do that. But I know I have a lot of clients and a lot of friends that are doing those programs. But I'm personally looking at doing the CNA side, because as a person who's a baby boomer and getting into that, I want to have that income and deal with the shortage, because I know I can provide the better quality of care and provide housing for them to go into it. So as a play on what you're talking about, because look at those traveling nurses. Imagine having someone come in that I'd want to pull from that traveling nurse to come in to help when depending on how full I get to, like, memory care assistance, let's say.
Yeah, definitely. And then the whole idea of like throwing an ADU in the backyard, that's a whole nother level of thinking about assisted living, or homes with multiple tenants in it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah, yeah. It's huge. I mean, she had a four bedroom in Garden Grove. Added 2 more bathrooms, put 2 beds in each bedroom. She built her own home then in the
Right.
ADU, and then she took out owner financing on the purchase. Then turned around, got her CNA license, hired someone in the meantime, and now she's clearing just short of 400,000, 450 a year. Hello,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, that's and so she's looking for her next property. And so when you have that kind of environment and then you know you can bring additional help in, and then who doesn't have on stage, or who doesn't know someone who's dealing with the cost of putting assistant living or seniors, and that doesn't mean just seniors in the aging population. It could be a handicap or some kind, or you know, challenge physically or mentally aspect of some individual at any age. So I mean, what an incredible opportunity, because we want to bring the joy. And then remember, she can have pets there because she owns the property, and pets are the greatest thing to help, you know, the love of as we age out, or a child that has, you know, needs additional, you know, something that they can care for. It's just, and to me it's just an incredible opportunity. And you could then rescue animals. I mean, the whole thing is just phenomenal, and then they have a purpose to get up out of bed every day and try to contribute.
Definitely. Awesome.
I agree with that. And I first learned about senior care. Actually, I had somebody call me when I used to build websites, and they had a house in Mission Viejo, and he asked me to come over there to do a meeting to quote to build out a website for his, elder care, senior care facility there. And and I was like, this is a house. Like, all it was basically a house, but they had a really big kitchen and they had a live-in nurse. And like Desiree said, some rooms had, one bed, and some of them had two beds. But like this, I want to say this was like over 15 years ago. And he was making like just insane money. Like he was making like $15,000 a month or more off of having a 4-bedroom house, because he had the nurse on site and he had the meals being made and he had all those things. And I like it too, because honestly, like, those seniors probably had a better life, like Desiree was saying, they had pets and all that kind of stuff, like, than they would have had they been in like one of our typical facilities. So it's neat when you can like make good money yourself but still help somebody else have like a better lifestyle. That's one of the things that I love about real estate. I also want to touch really quick, Elizabeth, you had mentioned about sober living. Those could be great income, but you have to be prepared to have a potential uphill battle with not only the city and permits, but with your neighbors. So just tread very carefully on that, because I've seen just neighbors really band together because they don't want a sober living home on their street. So if you go to purchase something, say in, Dana Point or whatever, and your neighbors get wind of it and they decide that they don't want it, then it could send all your dreams to make, $20,000 a month crashing down. Eric, what do you have to add?
Thanks again, Angie. Two parts to that about senior assisted living and also midterm rental. From a lending perspective, those senior living, again, I'm just strictly talking about the lending side. Before you make the conversion, you can get financing just through any traditional residential mortgages, conventional loan and whatnot. But once you make that conversion into like a senior living, it now becomes a commercial property. And if you want to get any subsequent financing, like refinance or do a cash out, it will now has to go through commercial financing. I learned this through experience. I had a client who owns multiple businesses, including a nursing home. He came to me, wanted to cash out, and he knew more than I did. When he first came to me, he's like, I need a commercial cash out. And when he sent me the property and told me about the nursing, and I look at the address, I was like, what are you talking about? This is like a standard residential home. Like, I can get you conventional loan. And little did I know, when we submitted loan, they're like, Eric, this is a nursing home. You cannot get residential financing. It has to be commercial. So just keep that in mind. On the back end, when you need lending, you need commercial loans, and it cannot be like a residential conventional loan. And also about touch up on the midterm rental. That is like a great alternative to kind of to short-term rental, to kind of get around the restriction on many of the cities. Like, for example, Anaheim, or Las Vegas, or any HOA had that strict 30 days or less rentals, um, you know, because you're renting out more than 30 days, for the most part, you should be able to avoid those restrictions and be able to rent out. And there's also many websites, travel nursing website that will work with you to help you find the tenants. And if in case you're wondering about, like, I want to do midterm rental, but I can't find any tenants, there are many websites out there that will work with you. They have established network of nurses. They'll help you get your midterm clients.
Thank you, Eric, for giving us that loan perspective on things because, yeah, all of our dreams get crashed if we can't get the financing, right, you guys? So make sure that you're talking with your lender partners early and often about what your dreams and your goals are so that they can help you with the right loan package around that. And yes, we were talking about midterm rentals, and that's what I had up next to kind of talk about was vacation rentals and midterm rentals. So I agree, Eric. Like the midterm rentals can be a really good option. And another kind of niche or aspect about that, and I know Desiree sent it to me before too, is the insurance rentals. I can't remember the website, but I'll find it and we can post it afterwards. But basically, like you can submit your property on these insurance websites. And if somebody has, a flood, a fire, some type of a disaster, then basically they get, a like type property from their insurance company and their insurance policy. So in essence, your renter is the insurance company, which we all know they've got bank, they're not going to default. And so that can be a good option for you to basically, get your property leased out. I've had many clients that are furnished rentals. I would get, contacted by these insurance agents with people that are looking for a property for 3 to 6 to sometimes 12 months. We've got some family right now that are in an insurance rental, and they're projected to have to stay there for 12 months. So that's something, definitely that the midterm rentals can be good. Also, it's something to kind of go to if your vacation rental isn't doing well. Right now, the vacation rental market is not as hot as it was in 2020 and 2021. We're seeing it kind of cool down. I know people are like talking about Airbnb bust and stuff like that. It's not that, you guys. It's just, same thing. Everybody found out about a trend, jumped on it, figured out, oh, it's maybe not as easy as it looks to do this vacation rental thing, and then you see the properties sell off or the prices get decreased because there's more competition on the market and things like that, which is why I wanted to highlight one of our speakers that we have on the sessions page, Marilyn Taylor. She is like Airbnb ambassador, superhost extraordinaire. She has been doing it since before it was cool, you guys. um, I actually met her when we rented out one of her vacation rentals in Desert Hot Springs, like I want to say over 5 years ago. And she just knows her stuff. She's been featured on HGTV as an interior designer, and she's got like these packages that if you are interested in becoming a short-term rental host, you can definitely learn so much from her. Like I'll just go on her Instagram sometimes and look at all the different videos that she has about, what should I do about this? What should I do about that? So she actually gave us one of the modules from her paid courses to be able to offer for free at Homeownership Day. So you're getting something for free that she usually charges for if you watch her session. And I watched it and I was like, yeah, a lot of this is super true because she's talking about 10 ways that you can vet your vacation rental guests. And that's a thing, you guys. Daniel with Flower Done runs our vacation rentals, and he spends a lot of time going back and forth with people because they're coming into your house, and not only your house but your furnished house, and you've paid money for those furnishings, and you want to make sure that when they leave that it doesn't reek of smoke or have a bunch of cat hair or whatever it is. So you want to protect your investment, but if you want to work in the sharing economy, then you still have to figure out a way to safely share your space. So Marilyn's a wealth of information on that. I encourage you guys to go, download her class. And then I wondered if you guys had any thoughts, good, bad, or ugly about Airbnb hosting. Like, what have you experienced as a guest? What have you experienced as a host? What do you want to see in the space? Does anybody want to step up and comment on that?
I don't want to discourage anyone from doing it, but we definitely have had some challenges and taken some lumps, like mainly early on. But I feel like you learn pretty quick, and if you have resources that you can plug into, like Angie was just talking about, there's just a few things you can do to screen people and make sure that you've got people in your space that are going to respect it. And a lot of our strategy, and I think this kind of speaks a little bit to what Elizabeth was talking about. I love some of your ideas on how to use your space, is kind of tailor an experience that's going to attract the kind of people that you want in your space. And ours is a lot of it's focused on art and wellness and education. And I think if you're reaching out to that demographic and offering them yoga or float tank therapy and things like that, like you're going to get people in your space that aren't there to party, and they're going to respect it and appreciate what the atmosphere that you've created for them.
I agree, and honestly, that's one of the things that Marilyn actually says in her videos, and it's hard for me as a real estate agent because she's got a video out about like do not prep your Airbnb like you would a real estate listing, and don't just neutralize everything. Don't make it whitewashed and boring, and you want to have like a unique expression of yourself and something that's comfortable and inviting for other people. And it's she's basically encouraging you to go down that whatever you looks like, whatever your best you, instead of just trying to be HGTV or whatever, and do that design. So she's got some really interesting perspectives, and that's one of the things I love about just sessions like this, you guys, or meeting up with people and talking about real estate. Like, we've all got a different opinion. We've all got a different way that we do things. Like, Daniel and I don't do everything the way Marilyn does. Like, she has an age limit. We don't. And that's okay. Like, that works for her, and we have what works for us. And there's different things that you can kind of integrate into your properties when it comes to both design and management, so that you can do some really neat stuff. Um, let's see here. Anybody have any other
I'll
thoughts?
jump in real quick.
Okay, go for it.
So I own a vacation rental up in Tahoe at the Everline. It was formerly a resort at Squaw Creek. It's at the Palisades Tahoe. It's high end. When you have a $2,200 a month association fee, just the fee for the association, that's high. But I keep it into not the volume. I keep it in the quality of the usage of it. And how do I do that? I make sure that the price point is high during the peak seasons, because it is a ski resort, it is a golf resort, it is, a fishing resort, it is a biking place and things like that. Angie, we've had some events up there were phenomenal. But the idea is that when you go into the short-term rental, what is the purpose of it? Is it still a market that down the road is still going to attract people to it? One of the reasons I bought mine was it was for me to use, and only for me, as a vacation home. But then I ended up not going there as much as I should. So to keep it viable for me and our portfolio, I ended up started renting it. And the second backup when I bought it is that it has a 35,000 square foot conference room. Yeah, that's huge. And so Meta and Google and all the big tech companies have their events there. And so you have a lot of weddings and other different uses for it. So it was a condo hotel conversion, and I was in the lottery as number 5 to buy it. So when you're buying an SFR, like a lot of cities here in Orange County, it's illegal to have an SFR that is an Airbnb or a short-term rental. And so you've got to be very careful on, who can stroke the pen at any given time, what can and can't be done. Now, have I had some problems in that property? Yeah, but I've only had really one. And I mean, case in point, I had when it was remodeled 12 years ago, I've only had one tenant that did any kind of damage to my carpet. And it's very, 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 very high end. And so the idea is that when you how do I want to put this? When you make it to a price point and you make it to where you're catering to a certain demographic that that is going to take care of it. And I've had people say, Desiree, I can only afford this amount. I said, I'm sorry, we have a certain price point. This is where it's going to stay. And I stay true to myself and I stay true to making sure I have adequate insurance. I have multiple insurance policies on my property to carry that, not only renter's coverage that's very high case of lack of use. I have secondary insurance on it besides my primary homeowner's insurance on it, besides the HOA insurance on it. So if any damage is done, and then VRBO and Airbnb, I mandate that they use an insurance policy on top of that. Most of them offer it on the third party websites, but there's ways to cover it that really make a difference. So I just want to put it out there. Yeah, our market last year at 730 inches of snow, it was insane. This year we had very little snow and now we're having a blizzard. So, but we have the World Cup coming. We have all these big events that are coming. So, and there's only so many properties there that's in the place, and the parking now has gone to $40 an hour. You have reserved parking on the weekend. So, all these little things, how do you predict where you're going to buy to create that short-term rental, and what are the capacity that's going to happen, and is it going to go in an upward direction, regardless of the economics? And how do I say that? Is because of the use of what it can be used for and what's around. Look at Disneyland. Look at all those homes around Disneyland that you never thought would go crazy. And now more people are doing, short-term rentals around Disneyland than even the hotels are there until they did a $30 million facelift, or what it was, 100 million. I can't remember what the dollar amount is stuck in my mind. They did a facelift around Disneyland. If you haven't been around Disneyland in a while, it is drop dead gorgeous. And what they did to give a facelift, because we went to a couple events and NAR just had their event there in November. So I just want to keep that in mind. Look at the future, what that area and that infrastructure is going to do to your short-term rental. Sorry, I was long-winded.
No, that's great. And you bring up a good point. When I got my resort and second property designation specialist last 2 years ago, they were really talking about why people buy these second homes and vacation rentals, and ski in, ski out is in the top five. And I bet none of you can guess what the number one thing is, because I was baffled when they told me. Does anybody want to take a wild guess? The number one reason why people buy vacation homes?
So that they can go on vacation when they want.
Yes, that's part of it. However, it's actually a very specific thing called bird watching. I kid you not, you guys.
Like the movie The Big
So,
Year.
like, seriously, if you yeah, if you want to buy an interesting property, like, a lot of people are obsessed with bird watching, and they will travel and stay somewhere for days to find and photograph that little birdie. So yes, ski in, ski out properties are very popular. Bird watching type properties are popular. I actually have a session from, I think, last year about vacation rentals, and I go over some of the other common reasons why people buy properties or different areas in vacation. And yeah, let's let that lead us into our international purchases kind of snippet here, because I always try to remind you guys it's not just the US, it's the world now. Like, we talk with people across the world on a regular basis. We are transacting business across the world. So I through that, I found an international property specialist that does actually vacation rentals in the Philippines. And Alejandro Manalik, he's just like a wealth of information, you guys. He spoke and gave the same presentation that he's giving at Homeownership Day to the National Association of Realtors and the certified international property specialist group. And he's just like, anytime you're going to buy an international property, that is a whole nother level of what you need to do, what you need to think about, what you need to consider. And it's neat. It's so cool to just learn about the different areas and what they've got going on and like what you can do with them. So I encourage you guys to download Alejandro's session. He goes by Andy too. And if you have any questions about property in the Philippines, feel free to reach out to him. Like he just yeah, he does it all. Like he does normal sales, like, for people that live there in the Philippines, but he helps people coming in internationally. He works with builders. He's talking about all kinds of different ways that the Philippines has property. One of the things that you want to think about when you are purchasing a vacation rental in, an international place is like what's, like Desiree said, what is around that? What is within a 3-hour drive, or what's a quick weekend, flight where people can come in? So he's got all these statistics about who's coming in and why they're coming in and what they're doing and all of that, and how the Philippines is growing. So definitely take a listen to that. And then I wanted to ask, are any of you guys looking at international property, and have, like, if you could buy anywhere in the world, where are you buying?
Can I go?
Do it.
Okay, great. I'll just start out with my name. I'm Martin Dorr. I'm a real estate investor out of Seattle. Um, Desiree, pleasure to meet you finally. I've heard you in a few spaces, and congratulations on all your success. You're definitely a boss in the space. Angie, this is the first time I've heard of you, so I'll be adding you here in a second. And same thing with you, Eric. Thank you guys for just holding this space and giving me opportunity to talk. I don't have a ton to contribute on just home ownership. I'm kind of on pivoting to my second plan, and I have 95% equity in my home right now. So the play for me is, should I refinance that and buy a vacation rental? So it's crazy you just mentioned that before I came up here. I'm kind of focused in Thailand, like Phuket and Pattaya area. So if you don't mind, before I get too far, you said Alejandro Malenik was your Filipino guy?
Yes, that's correct. And
Uh,
you can find his contact information on our sessions page at homeownershipday.com/sessions.
I've also been pinning every subject to the top. The last one pinned to the nest up there is the one that has those links.
Okay, I'm just kind of a spaz with the Twitter, so I may be in your inbox here in a little bit if I can't figure it out. But I'll keep the ball rolling because I am very interested in that, and the Philippines is on my radar. I basically have a question here. Just being that I do own my home, I'm in a really good equity position, but I live in cruddy Seattle, and I'm tired of it, and I'm considering selling, but that's not the smartest thing to do in real estate, just knowing that it keeps going up. So, I'm considering just pulling my liquidity out of here, putting somebody in here as a renter, and then just pivoting to a vacation spot and just living my best life. Desiree, I have the question for you. Just knowing my scenario, would you go for a refinance or a HELOC?
Well, the question is that when you're buying your next property, what are you buying? And can you tranche other people to be part of that buy? Meaning that, are you just going to buy a home? And I don't mean that to be buy a home to live in it. Are you going to buy a bigger property? Are you going to buy, a property that has 3 homes on it, and then you have one, and you have 2 others? So do you want to go as an owner occupied to buy that, which unless you can qualify for it, so then you have to take money out. So you always have to look at it from a bigger play, and what is your how cheap can you get capital? You heard before earlier that you can assume loans. So what if you found a piece of property that you had loan that you assume the loan from there versus then taking equity out of your current property? Can you get something to tranche the difference between the 3% down or having to take the equity out that you want to put 20% down? So to answer that question, whether it's better to do a HELOC or do a refi, or sell a piece of the land to then get pure cash out, then go with it. because you now can subdivide it. Now, since you're in Seattle, it's different laws. I don't know what the laws up there compared to what it is here in California. So there's, we used to say you could do one or the other, and that would be a straight, direct answer. To now, there's no, this is the way you should go and always go that way because it's a different avenue. So if you want to live, quote, your best life because you have 95% equity in your current home, what is that best life? Is
Yeah,
it to where you have, because you just heard my play in Garden Grove, and what I don't know if you were in during that play. So the idea is that I didn't even think of that idea. Yes, I thought of something like that, but when a friend of mine told me that that's exactly what her best friend's doing, I was just like, and this came from my curtain lady, and I've known her for 40 years in the business. I used to farm her track when I first got in real estate, and then she was like, I said, I need someone to make curtains for my home, and she's like, oh my God, Desiree, da 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 da. We used to do this together, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, we know. And so that story leads into innovation and creativity. So to you, I say, think big, don't think small. When you're going to say, hey, I don't want to live in Seattle. I know it's cold, a lot of rain. I don't blame you, beautiful city, but hey, let's not go there. So the idea is, what do you want that's going to generate you income while you're still living in your home? You can have a 5-acre spread and have 2 or 3 properties on it. You live in one and the other produce and make the offset for you to have the home that you're in. Then do you need to borrow money? Do you need to sell your property? Do you need to just do a refi or take a HELOC on it? No, you can then just factor it into the property you're buying.
mm.
So figure out what that looks like, not 5 years, but 20 years down the road, and then work it back. So open up the horizon for anyone that say that, Angie talked about a guy who had $1,000 for land. I could go here and cry and see how many houses I've gone through they sold over the years, and I should have kept. But the idea is that whether you're a developer or not, whether you're looking for your next property, there's always someone who can help you. So I
Thank-
know I didn't answer your question, but I
well,
want you to
yeah,
not think
you gave
focus
me a
on that.
lot. I appreciate that. I asked you a broad question. I don't really know yet. I have to go to these places to figure out exactly where I want to plant some seeds. So I'll reach out to Andy, and I do plan on later in this year just taking a 6-month to a year hiatus and just figuring out where I want to invest, and then from there, um, I'm a commercial investor. I own 4 mobile home parks, so I understand creative financing and leverage and all that. And so I plan on using those skill sets in another market. I just don't know the market yet, and a majority of my liquidity is jammed up in equity, and I can't eat off that.
I understand, but what can happen is that when you go to a term sheet and you have it on the equity status, they're going to go, he's a proven business model. So think of your house as a business model versus then as a residential. So now so you're an expert in that. Okay, so great. So then we move on to our next stage and be like Angie. Just okay. So I see an ad. This looks great. Get in your car and start driving to places, and let's see where it takes you. Because those places that are not advertised, you find those sleepers. I used to ride my bike when I was 16, 50 some years ago to Ojai. Now Ojai is the place to go. I can't tell you people from Silicon Valley that are going down there because it's so close to Montecito. It's this and this, and I'm just like, who would ever thought? But you have these pockets that are sleepers that, so the idea is that, do you want to buy when it's high because they're being boasted everywhere? Or do you want to find this natural? And that's why I love watching Angie's travels, is she finds these gems of just kind of on the way because she's camping and taking her airstream and going places and just living out of that because the joy of doing her real estate as remote as you need to do. And so it's that opportunity to see what makes my zen. To her number one market of a vacation was bird watching. Well, I live in Woodbridge in Irvine. I get to see birds all day long. Plus, I have a lot of birds in my house. But the idea is that she's right. When I go to Tahoe, I sit there and I just watch all the different animals that are coming by and say, this is super cool because of that relaxation. So what is that to you? And that's where you need to buy.
Thank you.
Marty, I wanted to pop in too. I appreciate your question, and I love it that you've got mobile home parks, and like seriously huge kudos to you for having 95% equity in your home. Like that is, you did things right. You didn't play the cash out refi game. And I'm not saying that it's terrible to cash out refi, but I honestly would do a HELOC. And maybe Eric will disagree with me and feel free to pop on after this, but the reason why I like a HELOC is because, you put that money down on one property and then you're paying down the HELOC ideally with the rental income that you're getting from the property that you rented out in Seattle. And basically you can wash, rinse, and repeat that process without having to do another cash out refi when you're ready to do the next one. Like HELOC, Alan, a HELOC is a home equity line of credit. It's in essence a huge equity line, huge credit card based off of your home's equity. So a lot of Southern Californians are sitting on $500,000 plus of equity. So they have these, you know, 60 to $200,000 HELOCs, home equity lines of credit. And that is one of the things that many people will use to purchase international property, because it can sometimes be difficult to get a loan when you're buying overseas. So that was one of the reasons why we featured Sarah Adi with Jamaica a few years back, because Jamaica is one of the countries that I'm aware of that will allow you to take a loan as an American, buy a property there in Jamaica. But that's one of the things that you want to be looking into, Marty, when you talk with Alejandro, is how your financing has to look in the Philippines, because it is a little bit complicated, but you know, Andy's got it all dialed in. So definitely be in touch with him, and kudos to you, my friend, for moving along that real estate journey. That's super inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah. Denise, I don't think
Just
I
to
welcomed you
motivate
for
you guys.
joining in.
So,
So
one last thing, just to motivate you people that are just getting started. I'm 36 years old. During COVID, I made a decision, and I'm where I'm at now. And so you can do it too. You just got to get started.
amen, my friend. There is never a bad time to get started in real estate. I don't care if you're old or young. Eric, what do you got to put in on this?
Okay, just to touch up about what option to go with, refinance or cash out refinance or take a HELOC. It really depends. You have to run the numbers. It depends on your qualification. HELOC gives you potentially more leverage of being able to take out more cash from your property. A HELOC, now I'm going to use the jargon, CLTV, is called combined loan to value ratio. So if you take out a HELOC and you qualify, the amount of HELOC you take out plus your existing loan, the combined loan amount can potentially go up to 90% in many of the banks. Whereas if you go with a cash out, meaning your existing loan balance plus whatever you want to cash out, can only go up to 80%. So that's one of the differences. Number two, your qualification plays a big factor at which route to go as well. HELOC in general has a tighter income and credit restriction. Again, just speaking in general, I mean, there may be some exceptions, but generally speaking, with HELOC, I think you need about 700 or 720 or above credit score to qualify. Whereas HELOC, your credit score can be as low. I mean, in terms of cash out refinance, your credit score can be as low as 620. So that's another factor to consider. And also your income source could play a factor as well. Marty, you mentioned you're kind of into commercial. You're investing right now. So if that's your sole job, and if you're a self-employed Schedule C income, reporting, that could present some complication when it applies to HELOC as well, because the HELOC lender, they typically are very strict. They want to make sure you have established a consistency with your income in order to grant you the qualification. Whereas a cash out, it could be more lenient in that they may only look at your recent tax return and qualify you that way. So, but again, you also want to look at, again, what would it look like if I take out a HELOC, the payment of that versus adding on to my existing payment, or versus what does my payment look like now if I take out a brand new loan, with the cash out. You want to look at that. Now, another strategy you can also consider utilizing, assuming you can get a HELOC, but at the same time lowering your payment, is you take out a HELOC, you keep your existing loan, but on that existing loan, you can execute what is called a recasting of your loan to lower the payment. So what recasting is that you pay whenever your monthly mortgage payment is due, and in that one instance, you make an additional payment. Most lenders allow $5,000 or $10,000, so you make an additional $5,000, $10,000 payment, and you ask them, "Hey, I want to recast. I want to reset my existing loan." And what they'll do is they'll reset your loan based on the new loan balance. And typically, if you have already paid down like maybe $50,000 or more on your original loan balance, and if you recast, that can help you lower your monthly payment by more than $300. Again, the loan term is the same. You're not refinancing. You're just recasting, resetting your loan, but that helps you lower the monthly payment, and it kind of help you offset with the additional payment you're encountering through HELOC. So
This,
those are some of the strategies you can incorporate.
oh my goodness, thank you so much, Eric, because I've never heard of that, and that fits me the most. I've been paying way too much too fast, and that's why I have so much equity. But recasting sounds like the perfect fit for me. Thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
The other thing to add real quick is, Eric, is that what's the benefit of paying your mortgage a month early versus then paying in, the day before the grace period ends? Is there any benefit to that? Because obviously you're carrying a mortgage. People need to know some of the tricks of the trade.
Right. So what you just described, Desiree, if again, it's not likely, but if you truly believe that you're going to keep your current mortgage for the duration of the 30 years, making that early payment, theoretically speaking, it reduces the overall number of payments that you need to pay. So if you look at a 30-year mortgage, 12 payments a year times 30 years, we're talking about 360 payments, right? So theoretically speaking, if you make additional or early payment, you cut into that 360 payments. So maybe you only had the totality of it, you only had to make 350 or 340. So that's the potential benefit. But realistically, if you look at the history of it, on average, folks only keep the mortgages about 7 to 10 years. Why? They either got a lower rate and they're going to refinance, or they decide to move on and sell the house. So even though theoretically you can gain savings, the reality is nobody really keep their mortgages. They'll keep the home for longer than 30 years, but nobody really keeps their mortgages for the entirety of the 30 years. So that benefit, being able to realize that benefit, is not very likely to occur. So.
Yeah,
I
but you
love
still
that we're, oh, go ahead, Des.
sorry, I was just gonna say, but you still get the benefit of the actual cash on because of the interest that you're quantifying it. So there is some benefit. I understand the realize of the length of owning the loan and things like that, because a lot of times people think that, well, I don't need to pay it. I just need to pay it at the end of the instead of doing it on the first, I can pay it on the 15th because it's not late until then. The problem with that is that if you can get 5% interest on your money, which we're doing now versus then before, you're getting 0 or less than 0.5% for how many years, the last decade. The point is that if you keep it into an interest bearing account at 5%, what's the difference is that if you pay it early versus late. So if you have a lower interest rate versus a higher interest rate. So these are things that you need to play with those numbers that can really make a difference. So if you right now have an adjustable on your home, and or it's over, let's say it's at 7-8%, and the idea is that because it's an adjustable, how it's going up and down, and you're only getting 5% in an interest rate, a maximum, you paying it early, you got some benefit versus then waiting to the 15th day. So even though that they're paying, so all that matters when you really start understanding the mechanics of a loan to what you're talking about, the recast and everything else. So it's so important, not just to, hey, well, my lender said, and it's servicing rights change from one company to the next because I took a loan out with Chase, but now it's with 15 other lenders, is now a Shell Point or a New Res or whoever. And that information of knowing what you can and cannot do and staying on top of it can be the difference of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of the loan. So I just want to put it out there.
I remember seeing a stat before that if you pay one mortgage payment per year additional to your principal, so let's say, for example, if you're a homeowner, you usually get a decent tax return. If you put that first portion of your tax return, that the reason why you got most of it is because you are a homeowner, back into your home and pay the principal down on that loan, then in essence, by paying one extra mortgage payment a year at the beginning of your loan cycle, you can shave up to 7 years off of a 30-year loan, you guys. So just like Marty was talking about, like he's been doing that and now he's looking to make his next moves. And paying your payments early and often, or another way to do it is to pay every 14 days instead of to pay once a month, and then that actually whittles in an extra mortgage payment for you a year as well. So those lenders don't have the biggest buildings in the downtown area, you guys, because they're confused about interest rates. They have the biggest buildings because we're confused about interest rates. So I encourage you guys to just dig in, have your lender friends, don't be afraid to contact them. Eric, I love this recasting stuff. Like, can you please do a home ownership day session about that next year?
You got it.
Awesome. We always love to have you guys back. And I want to honor your time. We have gone 1 minute over, but I just want to thank you all again. Like, thank you for engaging. Thank you for asking questions. Thank you for giving answers. Eric, Desiree, Daniel, Alan, Elizabeth, Derek had to log off and I have had to log off, but I just thank you guys for being a part of this and to helping everyone along on their home ownership journey. I want you to know that we do this event annually. Please, make sure that you're on the Home Ownership Day website and subscribed. Follow all of the speakers, follow each other, support each other. And there's some really great things that you can do in real estate. So thank you again, Vow to Save, for sponsoring. I want to throw out a thanks to CalCoast Web Design because they helped me at the last minute yesterday. You guys are freaking awesome. And just please share your real estate stories with us. Like, that's what keeps me going. I will continue to share mine with you. So follow Angie Weeks 1 on Instagram. And thanks again for spending your Saturday morning with us, you guys. It's been a great homeownership day.
Thank you, Angie, for all the work and putting this on every year. And let's do it during the middle of the time too, and just open up some spaces. So I'm on spaces a lot, so let's just keep this going. So thank you all for joining us.
Amen. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to thank everyone, and especially the speakers. The wealth of knowledge shared here today is immeasurable, and it's an extension of the free courses you can take at Homeownership Day. So definitely log on that website, get registered, and check it out. Follow all of these speakers. They just shared gold with you. So I appreciate everyone. Have a great day.